Good afternoon.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
They've been here since 7 o'clock, some of them.
No, thank you, Comrade Bones. We bring an update as to where are we since we had an engagement with you committing to start the conference on Thursday. We had challenges on the administration side because of members of the ANC, many who are employed were unable to come in the morning or during the day for registrations, and majority would have came in the afternoon. We did communicate to branches and structures the difficulty of starting as we wanted to. Coupled to that, there was an invitation for an agent NEC meeting, which we felt that we can't start a conference with the chairperson and the secretary of the province not in the conference. And then we went to the NEC. I'm sure it's a well-known fact by now that it started at 7 p.m. and finished at 4 a.m. The NEC had 2 items, and at some point they will speak about the meeting of the NEC. I don't have a mandate to speak on behalf of the NEC. And what came out of the NEC was a decision, 2 fundamental decisions as it relates to Gauteng, was that we must save the provincial conference. The provincial conference must happen. Secondly, that the matter of Ekurhuleni, 5 branches, 19 votes, be referred back to the PEC, and that the PEC should take a decision on that matter. On arrival here, members of the PEC were then informed of a meeting, agent meeting, to be convened, and when we were about to start at 8:30, the NEC deployees requested that we give them some time because they would have not slept, and it's a physical meeting. So we had to wait for them, and we were excited to see so many NEC deployees coming to a meeting. In the conference, we have 16 NEC members coming here. The PEC started with a brief about the state of readiness from the Secretariat, and we did indicate that we are ready with the conference. We are delayed by 1 matter. Whenever we resolve this matter, the conference will start, and the PEC was happy to read such a report. On the actual matter, the matter presented before the PEC was, firstly, how was the matter handled by the NEC? And in the NEC, we received a report from the NWC on this matter, the report from Comrade Jeff Khadebe, the task team established by national officials, the report from Comrade Joe Masongani, the convener of deployees in Gauteng, and lastly, a report from Comrade Jacob Kawe, the Provincial Secretary of Gauteng. All these reports were then subjected to the meeting, and the meeting, after a lot of engagement, came to this conclusion, that let this matter go back to Gauteng for 3 reasons. 1, comply with the constitutional rule that the provincial, the regional and branch meetings are coordinated and supervised by the PEC. And given that, it was important to bring back the matter. But equally, if in the event we take a decision that somebody has to appeal, If it's taken by the NEC, it means you only have the National Appeals Committee only to listen to it. So it's better that it goes to Gauteng. This is how the PC started, with that briefing. And then the PC had the discussions on the matter. And I should indicate that the matters that were dominant as we were discussing was that no, these branches have been disqualified. There is a report disqualifying them. So why do you want to bring them? The second view was these branches, there is another report that qualified them. And the logic of now disqualifying, and the other dominant views was but allow them to come into the conference. Having engaged all of us, we thought the best mechanism, because for now there are no details on the areas that we are discussing. The PC felt that we are not yet empowered to deal with this matter. Two, that as PEC we had not engaged with these branches. Three, that all these reports needs to be processed. A report of those who were deployed by the PEC to run the conference, the report of the organizing committee as to why was there a re-verification, and the report of the task team, which the task team had said that they are waiting for national officials to give them clear that they should, what we call, they can share the report with us. So having acknowledged that weakness, the PC said that we need to perhaps find another way of dealing with the matter, and that the conference should go ahead and these branches be allowed to come to the conference, participate as all other delegates in the conference, vote like all other delegates in the conference. However, until you conclude their issue, you should quarantine their votes. So that's the decision of the PEC. What does that mean? It means that you firstly have not unfairly excluded branches that you shouldn't exclude, but secondly you have not given all the rights to people that are still subject for another process of investigation. And thus far we're starting with the conference. As we speak, we are about to be addressed by the national chairperson of the ANC, Comrade Gwede Mantashe, and then we'll do political report by the provincial chair, and then we'll go to a closed session where we'll be adopting the conference rules, the credentials of the conference, the secretariat report, the treasurer's report, and then allow conference to discuss these reports and conclude the day. So we will request the conference to agree that we conclude what we're supposed to conclude today. We are aware that we are a bit behind on time, but the chair is going to make a request with the delegates that at least if we can push and finish the business of the day today, and that is receiving all the reports and adopting the credentials, that will be good for our conference. That's where I will end.
Thank you so much. PS, DPS, do you want to make additions?
No.
No additions. Can we kindly take hands? We know the drill. Name, media house, and then your question. I'll start on my left. Number 1, number 2 in front of me, number 3 behind me. Is that all? 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I'll come this side. You are number 1. Any other hands? My lights lavang shine. Or number 2. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in that order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thanks. Your hand up. Oh, okay. So.
Natasha Puri here from SABC News. Mr. Kawe, do you not fear legal action? Because I mean, these delegates had threatened legal action before because of these quarantine votes.
And then you said that you had not consulted with these delegates. Since the Ekurhuleni conference and now, do you not think that the ANC in the province should have actually, engaged them on this issue? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Tsidi, my dear, from Eyewitness News. Just two quick questions. Provincial Secretary, as we speak, I know you might have addressed this at the State of Readiness briefing, but there is a letter that is doing the round saying that, from the Integrity Commission that you should face disciplinary charges, and some people say that that's sufficient enough for you to not be allowed to deliver an organizational report. Just your general views on, one, that letter and what it means. Secondly, the view that this means that you're not the right person to deliver an organizational report today. Secondly, the issue of the quarantined votes, just your general impression on the back and forth around it. I think a lot of people still to question, why is Ekurhuleni so important? Why those votes were so important? Why had to go from when it happened to a task team, to the officials, to the NWC, to an NEC, and back to province? Just your general help us understand the importance of these people, and also the impact of some of them, because I understand some of them might have been branch delegates to the conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 3.
Abongile Tumago, SABC News. I'll branch off a bit. I'm casually covered by the two police. We've been to Mpumalanga, we've been to Limpopo, we've been to the Eastern Cape. Yes, we understand that there has to be some careful approach for a local work when it comes to the issue of security. But here in Gauteng is worse. We've seen buses, we've seen our cars be bonnet open and all of those things. It's scary, to be honest with you. What is it that makes you go that extra mile to this extent that we've seen here? And shouldn't you, as the organization, be utilizing a private security company? Why use SAPS? Thank you.
Okay. Number 4.
Yeah, I guess my question relates to Yati regarding
Name and surname in media house.
I guess mine relates to the question of Yati as to in regards to the cases, to how far it is and is there jurisdiction to protect Mr. Howard to be here. But secondly, my question is around the process. This entire process in quarantine votes, I wanted to know whether the PEC or NEC identified, has the PEC or NEC identified whether it was the office of the SGO that gave the REC mandate to notify the branches that were supposed to participate in the Ekurhuleni Regional Conference? Yeah.
Thank you. The last speaker.
Brian Sukutu from the Citizen. Mr. Secretary, the Ekurhuleni matter remains unresolved. By when do you think this matter will be resolved, because it's been dragging for some time? The other question is, in terms of the very same matter, what impact do you think this will have on the conference?
Okay. No brainwave. Thank you very much. PS and DPS?
The threat of legal action always exists. Nowadays, when members are not happy and they feel that they are not listened to properly, or that nobody consider their concerns, that option exists, that we can go to court. The PEC decision was that to handle this matter without the material I spoke about, you may come to a wrong determination, and therefore call this branch to come in. So for now, we more or less satisfied that this decision is in the best interest for the province and for the conference. By the way, I must say that there were other branches in other regions where we have already received letters from lawyers who say that if we don't allow this branch, that branch to participate, they may consider to take action against us. And we have written letters of defense to clarify our stand, why this branch should not be there and why that branch should be there. But basically, I'm saying nowadays, when we run a conference, the threat of legal action, you walk with it. So why I will not engage them? In the report provided by the task team, they did indicate that out of 5 branches they had engaged 2. And the reason why we did not engage them by that time is because we had elevated the matter to national, and national had established a task team, and therefore the task team was actually doing that work. So now that the matter is with us, it would mean we also need to do that work of engaging with the branches and confirm some of the issues raised in the new report, post the one that qualified them, and the issues that are on the new qualification report. The integrity committee, when it had to meet the provincial secretary, the first question they asked is, what do you want here? What have you done? Which was a useful question. And then they said, no, maybe there's a need of another structure. And we reported that, no, in the PEC, the matter was referred to a small team led by the deputy secretary. And you'd know the issue was there should be evidence of act committed. After some time, they then wrote a letter to the province, and they said to the province, we think that maybe you can charge the member using Rule 25, I think, .17 and so on. But basically that says when a member has assaulted a person. So that rule, you use it when there is evidence of assault. And I would end there. So if you say, I must not read the report, which rule would you use? That I shouldn't use the report. So let's leave to the province to set the matter with the DC. But in the politics of contestation, you do find anything that it's flying that you can ride over it. So that's the nature of contestation. Some contestations are just clean. Some contestations need support. Some support, it's either financial injection. Some support, it's either eliminate a person through whatever process. But we have traveled the journey, and that's why we're here. And by tonight, I would have read the organizational report as the outgoing as the outgoing provincial secretary. Why such a security? I don't know. We were confronted by the hotel that in their association of hotels, they would have been alerted of a potential disruption, which they relate it to a disruption that happened in the registration of Ekurhuleni. So the first security risk was raised was the owner management of this hotel, and how will the hotel be protected. That was the first issue. The second issue is that in many conferences, the disruptions are done by friends of delegates. People who are not supposed to be in the conference, people who come drunk and armed. And based on that, then the SAPS, they have a new law on public gathering. Then it imposes the restriction that this is how they should deploy the police. Let me tell you, when we were about to start the PEC meeting, PEC members were there at the corner of the street are far from here, and they were told to leave their cars there and walk. Because the idea and the agreement with the hotel is that we're going to reduce the number of cars here and rather use buses. And they were searched, and some of them felt a harassment. We even had to go to the chief who is in charge of the police, that but your hand, it seemed to be more tighter. Just relax a bit. We're not using SAPS because we don't have money to use a private security company. It's because of the Public Act gathering that requires us to do so. We nearly made a mistake of using a public security company in Indaba Hotel during the conference of Ekurhuleni. And you know, those guys, when we have hired them, and we say to them, we don't know this fellow, even if you know this fellow, kick him out. Whereas the police, they have a regulation to do their work. So it is on those basis. I'm sure DC, I've covered it along those lines, that we will await for a member to be charged, and then we'll take it from there. The power to nullify branches of Ekurhuleni specifically, that is actually an issue of the PEC that was engaging, was that if you had passed verification and you qualified, who has powers to re-verify the branch? And we didn't have an answer. And then we went to look at the guidelines. And the guidelines give that authority to a branch member who was present in that meeting. And in this instance, you all know that they were disqualified because National has received a letter from the region, and the region was making allegations against these branches. And that's how it ended up to be where we are. How long will you take? I'm sure the incoming PEC, as we resolve with the NEC, and I'm supposed to write a report to the SG, we said that the first meeting of the PEC, it must receive a report from this PEC, a handover report, which we must do, and then they will take the handover report and develop a process plan of engaging all these structures and finally come to a determination. And we want this to be done urgently because there is no leadership in Ekurhuleni. And the ANC has to resolve that matter because we are preparing for 2024. And you can't prepare for 2024 when you don't have structures such as the regional leadership. So it is also in our interest as a party to conclude that issue. If we had all these processes and documents and reports, I'm sure today we would have taken a better decision. But we didn't want to take a decision from this and that, my view, your view, but we wanted to take a decision based on the quality of the material you gather in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. PS, DPS?
Provincial conference, you know.
No,
Wait.
I think I'm fine because I was going to speak just on the issue of security which PSF just raised, including this one of how long, because we want to speed up that process, and definitely next month it will be done.
Yes. Follow up quickly. 1, 2, 3. That's the last three. 1, 2, 3. Follow up.
Yes, what have we learned from this?
And then,
You done?
Yeah. What question?
I don't know if you know this letter that somebody just sent it to me. It's written to the office of the ANC's SGO and to your office from the convener of the NYTT, and she's basically alerting the ANC of alleged irregularity of the ANC Youth GP PCP delegation that was submitted to actually participate in this conference.
NYTT?
Yes.
The Youth League?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wrote the letter to the PS. Oh, okay.
Just two quick ones. There was a legal letter around this Dibeng REC where court action supposedly is pending, where they want the REC barred. These particular members say that REC's ascension was based on irregular processes, many branches were left out. What is the issues around there? What is the status of the REC? Other concerns around, again, litigation around the REC NC debate. Secondly, for you've been called a planner ref by so many people, saying you are the deputy secretary in the province and you played the acting role. You are contesting this conference. You are also part of the dispute resolution committee, and that all these three cannot necessarily be, and it brings into question your integrity in essence in playing the different roles in the party. Just your reaction to that, and how, let me leave it at that, just your reaction to that.
No, as for
No.
Okay, all right. That begin phone.
No, because it's a conference.
Oh, yeah, the phone so that when she responds, she's adequately informed. There will not be a short second.
Okay, so then.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much. Australia now we feel ngati shushu. Yeah.
Immediately when PS was on leave, just for 2 weeks, I had to be the acting secretary, because when the secretary leaves, the provincial secretary leaves, the deputy secretary takes over and run the responsibilities. And I was chairing the PDRC, but at no stage that I chaired the PDRC when PS was not around, because I knew that I would be conflicted, but I was attending the meetings, although my role was very minimal because I'm a member of the PDRC as a convener of the PDRC. So I didn't think that I was a player in a referee, but I was doing my responsibility as an acting provincial secretary. And there was those that felt that I shouldn't have been even in the PDRC, or I shouldn't have been allowed even to be the acting secretary, because they believed that, I remember at some stage they even called him and said, how we wish you shouldn't have taken a decision that you must go and take leave, or you have taken leave. We shouldn't have allowed you to go, because now at least you will be assisting us and understanding some of the things that we need to do. But we knew that the comrades are just naughty, because there was no reason why they had to say that when PS was not there, because we have been working very well with Comrade PS. Even when he was here, I used to work with him and do some of the responsibilities that I've been doing. So there was nothing of a player in a referee. It's just a consultation that I was even doing to him when he's not in the office. He knows everything that I was doing. So there was nothing wrong that I did, and I didn't rig the conference.
You were interviewing in Tswani, in Ekurhuleni.
Those are lies, because you wanted to say I was interfering. They were saying I'm interfering. No, I didn't interfere in anything. I was just doing my work as a provincial secretary. Isn't it himself?
Okay, thank you.
Still tears whenever.
No. Just on a lighter note, somebody said we shouldn't allow the provincial secretary to speak on this matter because it's standing. And I said that's not a conflict. There's nothing wrong with that. What is the lesson? The lesson is that at all times we should be consistent with the guidelines we are adopting. The second lesson is that we must spend time to listen to the grievance, and that we must rise as a leadership, deal with a matter objectively rather than subjectively getting involved. Because when we entered the Ekurhuleni conference, I'm sure our ears were now closed, and what was practically possible was that we were counting the numbers for purpose of voting. So that's a lesson I think we should learn as ANC, and it will help us to resolve many challenges. But at times we diagnose ourselves and see a problem and do exactly what created a problem. So within the context of renewal, we've got to do things right when we have discovered them. So we have discovered that there is a manipulation of process, and it was in a diagnosis report presented in the NGC and subsequently in NASREC, But we have not stopped as leadership. We still do these things that are in the report. So there is a lesson in the Ekurhuleni matter, and I'm sure we'll learn to handle things better. NYTT, yes, indeed, I received a letter yesterday, and I sent the letter to the provincial structure because the letter was from national. And we were consistent with the application of guidelines. Who protests on the delegations for the conference? Now the guideline says it's a member of the branch. So in this instance, it's the member of the youth league who is present in the meeting. So if you are to be consistent with that rule, I didn't receive a complaint from a member of the the provincial task team, right? When I sent the letter to the leadership, the secretary, the convener, and the coordinator, they wrote a letter responding to the letter I received. And I took the letter as it is, passed back to the person who wrote the letter to me. And in their response, they say, no, it's not true. There was a meeting in the evening via virtual, and the delegation they elected. So they think it's because these ones are angry of this delegation and that delegation. And we went to a meeting of national with Comrade Deputy Secretary. One NEC member.
All right, the ANC Gauteng province briefing there by the provincial secretary, there, Jacob Kawa, giving the latest as in terms of where they are at the moment. He has said that when all matters are resolved, the conference will start. But we do believe that the conference is in fact underway, and that Gweta Mantashe has indeed opened the conference at this time. Some of the issues that they were battling with was, of course, the issue of communication with the branches and the structures about difficulty with starting. They said that the chairperson and the secretary were not in the conference, and that also then delayed proceedings as they could not begin without them. But of course, they also were dealing with the issue of certain branches believing themselves to have been excluded unfairly. So certainly, these are some of the issues that we'll unpack after the break. Do stay with us here on SABC News.